tell you. Christmas Eve, I got here before anybody else. I wanted to just stay a while with no one else here, and I came in the sanctuary to experience the stillness and the peace, and just to feel Christmas, and to make sure everything was ready. And I looked around, and I couldn't find Jesus. He wasn't in the manger. I searched the sanctuary, I looked in the cry room, I looked in the nursery. I couldn't find him anywhere. Good news, apparently he was in the library. Typical Jesus. But phew, we found Jesus. We're okay. It reminded me of several years ago when our oldest Michaela was just a toddler, and she was playing with one of my nativity scenes, and the little baby Jesus went missing. I tore up the house searching for it. I looked behind the sofa, under the sofa, in all the cushions. I searched her room and the toy bin, her pockets. I looked in the bathroom. I looked everywhere. About a week later, in the L part of the foot of the sofa that was facing away, I found Jesus. I found Jesus! Yay! That phrase always makes me giggle a little bit. There is a cartoon that was drawn by Australian artist Tim Wyatt that depicts two men standing at the doorway of a house asking a woman if she has found Jesus. The thing is, you can clearly see that Jesus is standing behind the curtain. He's behind the drapes, like he's playing hide and go seek. You see his feet and his arm. And as a Lutheran, that cartoon just resonates with me. I can relate to it. Because as a Lutheran, that question is one that I think we're not too entirely comfortable with. Though I think most of us have been asked. I'm curious, how many of you have had a well-meaning person at some point in your life ask you if you have found Jesus? Maybe somebody knocking on your door, maybe someone sitting at the park handing out pamphlets, someone holding a sign on the street corner, or even a friend who is genuinely concerned for the safety of your soul. Most of us have been asked, haven't we? Well, in John's Gospel today, we watch as Jesus comes towards John the Baptizer. And John announces to anyone who will listen, it's him. It's the Lamb of God. It's the Son of God. I was there. I saw the dove descend. And then again the next day, when John was sitting with two of his disciples, he excitedly exclaims, it's the Messiah. The Jewish people had been waiting and watching for the Messiah for centuries. And now here he was, just a mere few feet away from them. And so with John's blessing, his two disciples approached Jesus. I'm not sure if they really knew what to say when they just asked him, where are you staying? And Jesus tells them, "Come and see." And they do. And their whole lives are changed. And then Andrew, in his enthusiasm and eagerness, goes and gets his brother and tells him, "We found the Messiah! We found Jesus! Yay! Yippee! Woohoo!" Except they didn't. If you pay attention to John's gospel, in both encounters, it's Jesus who's doing the moving. Jesus comes towards them. Jesus comes by them. Sure, Andrew and the other disciple and Simon, who Jesus renamed Peter, they decide to follow. But it's Jesus who does the finding. Because that's how Jesus works. That's why I tend to want to giggle if somebody asks me if I found Jesus. Because thankfully, I never had to go searching. Jesus found me and has been with me my whole life, never leaving my side. Now, there may be times for many of us where we realize that Jesus was under the sofa or behind the curtain or in the library or walking with us to Emmaus or on our journey. Maybe for some of us it was during Sunday school or at church camp or inspired by a really good sermon. Maybe for some of us it was when we opened the Bible and read it and the words just came alive. Or maybe for some of us it was during a hospital stay. Or watching a really beautiful sunset. Or while we were deployed and fearful. Or while holding a brand new life. Maybe for some it was during a conversation with a really good friend. Or it was something that just gradually grew and grew, and one day it just clicked. Or maybe for some of us here, it just always seemed to have clicked. And we can't remember a day when we didn't know. But those are just times where we open our eyes to realize that Jesus has been here with us the whole time. You see, like Isaiah wrote, God has called us since before we were born. We have been given gifts and talents. We have been strengthened. God has claimed us as God's own. Whether we know it or not, there is a design and a purpose for us, a plan, should we choose to follow, though often we don't, but hopefully we get there anyway, because we have been chosen to spread God's light in this world, to share God's light and grace, to give God's love and mercy. Because as people who have started to open our eyes, as people who have come and seen, we have experienced God's peace and hope. We have been changed by God's unconditional love. and a joy. And we know that we have been found. And we see that Jesus is with us always. Now, there may be days, like this morning, where it seems hazy and foggy, and it's kind of hard to see Jesus in the mess, in the chaos. On those days, Jesus promises us that he is in those places we probably least expect. He is with those who struggle for housing security, who don't know where their next meal will come from. He can be seen with those who wrestle with sobriety and addiction. He sits with those who suffer with physical and mental and emotional health concerns. He is in the midst of those who are fleeing oppression and violence and have no place to go. He hangs out with those who are ostracized because of who they love or how they identify. He is in the hospitals, on the front lines, in the prisons, in the orphanages. He is with the aging and the children, with the marginalized and the burdened. And we also can see Jesus in the hands that serve food on Saturday evenings to the community. We see Jesus working through first responders who are willing to risk everything to help others. We see Jesus in the social workers, in the teachers, in the caregivers, in those who are working for justice and striving for welcome. Jesus is in those who are willing to sit down and hold a hand and wipe a tear. And if you look around, Jesus is here in these pews, singing our hymns, answering our prayers, meeting us at the font and the water and the word, and giving us himself in the bread and the wine of the meal. And so with that enthusiasm and excitement that John the Baptizer had, look around. This search is over. We don't need to look anymore. Jesus has found us. He is with us all the while. Come and see. He is here. Amen.
Amen. That's a beautiful story.
I invite you all to stand as you are able.